North Dakota Politics with Nicholas Kralik, Josh Meny, and political correspondent Maddie Beer Temple.
A good Sunday to you. Thank you for joining us for Inside North Dakota Politics. I'm Nicholas Kralik.
And I'm Josh Meny.
And I'm Maddie Beer Temple. It's hard to believe, but the next time we'll see you will be the Sunday before Election Day.
But that's then, and this is now. And a little later, we'll be previewing the upcoming legislative session with two of our North Dakota senators.
But first, let's take a look at the week that was.
Mr. Chairman, the votes are 12 yeas, 10 no votes.
The nomination will be reported favorably to the floor with a unanimous vote.
And with that, Judge Amy Coney Barrett is one step away from becoming Justice Amy Coney Barrett. All 12 Republicans on the committee voted in support of Barrett's nomination to the Supreme Court Thursday. Democrats boycotted the vote. The full Senate will vote on Judge Barrett's nomination next week.
Really that's appropriate.
Thursday brought the second and final presidential debate between President Donald Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden. This time, the tone was more civil, but there were still plenty of fiery exchanges, including on the pandemic.
I've been congratulated by the heads of many countries on what we've been able to do.
Anyone who's responsible for that many deaths should not remain as President of the United States of America.
The president said again that he's preparing a health care plan.
So I'd like to terminate Obamacare, come up with a brand new, beautiful health care.
He's never come up with a plan. I guess we're going to get the pre-existing condition plan the same time we get the infrastructure plan.
And later, the two had a heated exchange about their competing visions for the future of the U.S. energy sector.
Would you close down the oil
By
industry?
the way, I would transition from the oil industry, yes.
Oh,
I would
that's
transition.
a big statement.
It is a big statement.
That's a
because
big statement.
I would stop.
Why would you do that?
Because the oil industry pollutes significantly.
Oh, I see.
And here's the deal. But
That's
you
a
can't
big
do
statement.
that. Well, if you let me finish the statement, because it has to be replaced by renewable energy over time. Over time.
That wasn't the only key debate this week, though. Josh?
That's right, Maddie. North Dakotans got to hear from Governor Doug Burgum and his two opponents, hoping to unseat him. Governor Burgum, Democratic challenger Shelley Lenz, and Libertarian candidate Dwayne Hendrickson offered their views on a wide variety of topics during Wednesday night's live debate, moderated by Dave Thompson. The governor and his opponents discussed the coronavirus pandemic, the Affordable Care Act, and the future of Coal Creek plant.
I'm not a fan of windmills, say. We see so many reports about them, and we believe that it adds cost to our energy. And we don't believe that it's environmentally sound from the production until the end of their life. And so we have to look at positive things in the energy industry. And I don't believe that putting these windmills all over our beautiful landscape is a positive thing for our state.
Coal Creek, Lieutenant Governor Brent Sanford is working 7 days a week with industry to save this plant. It's critical not only for North Dakota and for the communities around Coal Creek, but it's also critical for the nation for us to have resilient baseload electricity. We can't be running our nation just on renewables.
I do believe that the coal plant has other, in addition to producing electricity, there's so much in coal that can be extracted and revenue generating, or potentially we invest in carbon capture there. But we also need to invest in capturing that flare.
The Coal Creek plant is slated to close in the year 2022.
Early voting has officially kicked off in the capital city. Burley County moved the early voting location this year from the county building to the Bismarck Civic Center due to COVID-19. The larger space allows for polling booths to be 6 feet apart. Plexiglass can be seen throughout the area, and masks are highly encouraged.
With COVID, we don't know, what's going to happen in a day or two. Everything's very uncertain. So we, want to give voters the option to vote in person if they so choose, and we think early vote is a really great way to exercise your voting rights.
Early voting will be happening all the way until Election Day.
As of Friday afternoon, a whole lot of North Dakotans have already cast their ballots. Here are numbers direct from the Secretary of State's office. So far, more than 205,000 ballots have been mailed out to voters. More than 126,000 of those have already been sent back and accepted, and about 18,000 people have voted early and in person.
Meanwhile, in Ward County, poll workers are still in short supply. With COVID numbers increasing every day, the Ward County Auditor says people who signed up to work are canceling now as a precaution because of health concerns. To run the 5 vote centers in Ward County, she says she needs 60 workers and 20 additional people just in case people call off.
Trying my hardest to keep all of the vote centers open with numbers increasing, kind of seeing what this week brings us and, possibly into next week. If my workers start to spike and, I'll back out, I would have to probably look at condensing down to less centers just because we're not going to be able to operate those. So I hope that's not the case.
And Heaven says you can contact your auditor to ask how you can get involved. She wants to remind people that it's a full day. You'll be there at 6 a.m. and leave around 8 p.m. Masks, face shields, gloves, and hand sanitizer will be provided.
Still to come on Inside North Dakota Politics. Not long after the election, our state's legislature will be back in session.
We'll hear from lawmakers on both sides of the aisle about what's in store for 2021. Stay tuned.
I am a nurse,
a firefighter,
a college student,
a mother,
and I am an American soldier.
I will always be ready
for every storm
and disaster that threatens my community.
I will always be there to protect my neighbors,
my family,
and my country.
We are the Army National Guard.
We are the Army National Guard.
We are the Army National Guard.
Visit nationalguard.com to learn more about part-time service.
Look what $288 buys today at Keating Furniture World. A beautiful sofa like this, just $288. Kick back and relax in a great recliner, only $288. Dining sets, just $288. Queen beds, only $288. Look around. You'll be amazed how you can get so much for so little, just $288. Plus, many items throughout the store for only $388 and even $488. Plus, enjoy no interest for 1 full year. So don't pay more. Get more for less. It's the one low price that's oh so nice. Furniture starting at just $288 at Keating Furniture World.
Save today on Menard's great selection of outdoor power equipment. We're here to help you choose with confidence that you're getting the best. Get outside and power through the cold quickly and effortlessly with a Briggs & Stratton snowblower. With many models and features to choose from, you'll be equipped to take on whatever Mother Nature throws at you. Save today with 11% off all Briggs & Stratton snowblowers now at Menard's.
Save big money at Menard's.
Explore your next career opportunity virtually. It's just a click away. Join the KXNet Virtual Job Fair on October 28th and 29th. This 2-day online hiring event allows you to connect with thousands of potential employers. Apply now and find open positions instantly. Go to kxnetjobs.com to make the most of your career. Register today and don't let this career opportunity pass you by. KXNet Virtual Job Fair, October 28th and 29th. Inside North Dakota Politics on KX.
And welcome back. District 37 Senator Rich Warner from Dickinson, a Republican, joins us. How are you today, Senator?
I'm doing real fine, thank you.
Great. Well, Senator Warner, you are the chairman of the Legislative Arrangement and Procedures Committee. On Wednesday, your committee met and decided all legislators will be wearing masks and being tested twice weekly. How do you plan to implement all this? Do you expect any resistance?
Well, first of all, it was a recommendation. Our committee can't make the rules, but we will have a rules committee in both the House and the Senate that will move this forward. And these rules will be voted on by both chambers. The full body will be there and vote on them before they become actual rules for the session.
What are your biggest concerns in terms of COVID safety and precautions?
Well, I guess my biggest thing is that we'd have so many people with the COVID virus down during the session that we would have to stop and take a recess. So we want to make sure that we keep it going, and we're going to do everything we can because we got to do the job of the people of the state of North Dakota, and we want to get in and do our business and get out as quickly as possible. Therefore, we need to make sure that we take the precautions that will allow us to do our business and not have to have it interrupted.
Yeah, and will you be doing a lot more virtual meetings?
Well, here to answer that, first of all, our plans are to come and be there in person. We want to make sure that, our legislators are there, they're comfortable, and we do have some that have compromised health conditions, so we need to be careful with them and make sure that they can participate. However, I want you to know that if we can't be there, if someone can't be there, they can take care of their business, they can take care of their legislative activities online through video conferencing. And, as we look at that, they can take part and be active in a committee. They can vote. They can participate with discussion. They can sponsor bills. They can make amendments. It won't be any different. So no matter what, if we don't have too many people out, we're going to keep on going. And there may be some people that decide that they want to go that way, and we would encourage them to be there. The other thing that people need to understand, that when a bill goes to the floor of the House or the Senate, what will happen is that they will be able to participate just as if they are in the chambers, because we have new boards up which have video abilities, and as a result, I could be in my own home right here. I would be up on the screen. I could testify or give arguments on a bill on the floor of the Senate, and then when it's done, I would be able to vote right here from my home. We'll be able to do that. So no matter what the situation, whether we end up being all there or some of them there in kind of like a hybrid, we're going to be able to do the legislative process.
All right, let's switch gears here and talk about the budget. We were talking earlier this week, and you said we're going to this biennium about $764 million over budget. It's the next biennium starting on July 1st, 2021, that will be impacted by what's been going on during this COVID pandemic. How do we expect to balance the budget? How do we expect to fill in the shortfall?
Well, to start out with, we had $764 million from oil last time that was cash that went into this biennium. That's what helped us to stay over budget. Right now, we're about $93 million over budget. That's good. But as we go into the next biennium, we are not going to get that $764 million from oil. We'll probably only get about 350. So there's a shortfall there. We're going to have to figure out how to build it up. So what do we have available to us? Number one, right now the economy is moving along, and we are over budget. So we're hoping that, with any luck at all, we could end up with $150 million over budget. That helps fill the hole. We will need some of our legacy earnings to come up and fill the shortfall, and there will probably be about $200 million there. And then the other thing that we've done, and that is we have got our rainy day fund, our budget stabilization full, and it has $726 million plus in it. So that we could take some money out of there to get us through. Not many times do you go through, for example, the 15-17 session, we were short. That was a short revenues. We came back in 17-20-19, that session, things went really well for us financially. Now we're into a situation where we have a reduction in resources and revenue, which basically came because of the oil downturn. So we do have some options: legacy earnings, budget stabilization, and we will be over on our ending fund balance.
All right. Thank you very much, Senator Warner. We're short on time here. It was great having you on. Coming up next on Inside North Dakota Politics, Dem-NPL Senator for District 35, Aaron Oban.
There are all kinds of voters, like early voter Ed or absentee Abby. No? How about Vote by Mail Marie or Election Day Dave? Ed does everything early. Dave's not late, but he's also not early. Marie's got this. Abby can't miss out. There she is. They all made plans to make sure their voices are heard. What's your plan? Visit VOTE.ND.GOV. Voting in North Dakota. It takes all kinds.
Every 3 days, someone in North Dakota dies by suicide.
And the power of one phone call can make a difference.
Your life matters. You have a purpose.
First Link can help you find support in your area. Reach out. You don't have to struggle alone.
This isn't the end of your story. Let's find hope together. Call First Link 211 or 1-800-273-TALK.
Hello, I'm Denise Osmond with the North Dakota Department of Transportation. I'm in charge of finding new employees to support our mission to safely move people and goods. We have many great opportunities right now, from equipment operators to construction technicians to supervisor and team lead positions. We have a spot for you all across the state of North Dakota at ND.GOV. Both full-time and temporary positions are available. Reach out to us during the KXNet Jobs Virtual Career Fair.
Hi, I'm Elmer Carl.
And I'm Sandy.
Here to invite you to our grand reopening in Yankton.
And in Madison. And this is your special invitation to join us.
Join us in Yankton on Wednesday.
And Thursday in Madison. Join us for ribbon cuttings with the Chamber of Commerce at both locations. Save up to 40% on appliances at every Carl's location. We also have grand opening specials right now on TVs, furniture, and mattresses. Stop in and see us.
Carl's, your servicing dealer since 1956.
To Inside North Dakota Politics on KX.
Welcome back. We're joined now by Senator Erin Oban of District 35. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so our first question is, with COVID, how are you going to run the legislative session safely? What precautions are you hoping to bring forward?
So we would suggest that we should be taking the same advice from the medical and health professionals that we've been giving the public for many months, and that's to practice distancing as much as possible, to wear masks when we can't be as distanced, to test, to avoid large crowds. And that will be challenging given how the legislature is set up. But we've been making as many accommodations as we can, making sure that there are virtual options available for both legislators and the public, which has meant some upgrades to technology and maybe some practice for some of us who aren't as comfortable with a virtual environment. But I really think that we deserve the same protections as everybody else, not better, not worse, and so we have to take those precautions to make sure that's in place and also allow the public to engage in their government.
All right. Taking a legislative look ahead, obviously the supermajority is the GOP. As a Democrat, how do you plan to get things accomplished that Democrats want to get done with limited votes?
Sure, the same way we have in sessions prior. I mean, when you're fighting for the right things, it doesn't matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat. And when we get into the legislature, we don't see our colleagues, at least from our perspective, as being the majority or minority. Certainly, there are some differences in how those votes come out, but overwhelmingly, we agree on the same things. And so what we do is try to hold that majority accountable for the decisions that are made, but work with them in places where we can agree.
So now Governor Doug Burgum presents his budget for the 21-23 biennium in December. With COVID-19 and the downturn in the economy, what are you concerned with in the budget? What are you hoping to push through?
Our Democratic NPL priorities haven't changed because of COVID. They've actually only been deepened and kind of brought more into light. And those priorities include making sure that folks have access to health care, no matter if they are living in our rural population areas of North Dakota, in our more urban settings, if we can call it that, in North Dakota, or on our reservations. Access to health care is critical, making sure folks with pre-existing conditions continue to be protected, no matter what that fight in Washington looks like, and taking care of behavioral health needs. We did make some progress on that, and our goal will be to make sure we don't walk back on any of that. We can't continue to take steps forward if we aren't going to keep pushing those forward in the future.
Now, talking about behavioral health, that is something that we talked with Senator Rich Warner about. How do you plan to step it up? Obviously, there's more going on. There's more substance abuse. There's more depression with the pandemic. How do you plan to meet those needs for North Dakotans?
You know, I really think that we've sometimes made it seem like it's a false choice to either take precautions because of the pandemic or to take care of our mental health, and I just don't think that that choice is appropriate. We should be taking care of our physical and mental health needs all the time. I guess the opportunity that COVID has created in that behavioral health and also physical health realm has been expansions in telemedicine to try to create greater access and equity in the delivery of health care across a very geographical spread in population in North Dakota. We're doing exciting things with partnership between behavioral health and the Department of Human Services and K-12 education. We've heard over and over again that educators are frustrated with the behavioral challenges that they are faced with in the classroom. And it should not be the responsibility of schools to solve that problem. It really needs to be in partnership with the experts so that educators can educate and healthcare professionals can take care of healthcare.
Are there any more greater resources you want for education looking forward?
Well, obviously K-12 funding, the state accepted a very large responsibility in that number of years ago, and we want to make sure that we uphold that responsibility to our local school districts and keep the pressure off of property taxes as much as we can. With every step the state makes towards a greater percentage of state funding for K-12 education, the lesser that falls on property taxpayers. And that's important when the only tax we hear people complain about is their property tax.
Now, looking ahead to the next legislative session, any final messages for North Dakotans?
Yeah, I mean, one thing we've heard over and over again, and obviously the pandemic has only deepened that, is the importance of our small businesses in our communities, no matter what size that community. So making sure that they stay whole, especially that hospitality industry that's really been struggling, but also the infrastructure that's required, the roads and bridges, and also rural broadband. I mean, if we have seen anything that's important through this pandemic, it's to make sure that folks have access to the internet with fast, reliable internet as much as electricity, as much as flipping a light switch. So those are the infrastructure priorities that as the Democratic NPL we will be prioritizing.
All right, thank you, Senator Erin Oban. Plenty more of Inside North Dakota Politics straight ahead.
All right, guys, I'd like to introduce the newest member of our hockey club. He's a guy that's going to bring a lot of skill, a lot of speed, and grit to our lineup. Please welcome Corey. Corey, you're up.
Corey, you should just stick to fixing cars.
4 years ago, North Dakota elected a business leader governor, Doug Burgum. A businessman and political outsider, Doug Burgum's delivering innovation, reinventing government, and treating taxpayers like customers, balancing the budget without raising taxes. With business know-how, Burgum's diversifying the economy even during a global pandemic. A balanced approach to keep North Dakota open for business and students in school. Doug Burgum, strengthening North Dakota for the future.
The whole works is awesome.
North Dakota has built a living tribute to veterans and their spouses, a place they call home, a home where fellow veterans relish in the camaraderie of their peers, a home where staff are truly vested in the lives of those they care for. The North Dakota Veterans Home has 52 skilled nursing home beds and 98 basic care beds, with rooms that are private and have a private bathroom, a living tribute to veterans and their spouses in Lisbon, North Dakota.
Explore your next career opportunity virtually. It's just a click away. Join the KXNet Virtual Job Fair on October 28th and 29th. This two-day online hiring event allows you to connect with thousands of potential employers. Apply now and find open positions instantly. Go to KXNetJobs.com to make the most of your career. Register today and don't let this career opportunity pass you by. KXNet Virtual Job Fair, October 28th and 29th. To Inside North Dakota Politics on KX.
future of the U.S. Postal Service is up in the air. The new Postmaster General issued a number of overhauls in midsummer to cut costs, which have caused well-documented mail delays nationwide.
Josh, you spoke with both candidates for U.S. House about this matter, right?
That's right, Nicholas and Maddie. Democrats, like congressional candidate Zach Racknerud, say DeJoy's directives will prevent millions of mail-in ballots from returning on time. But Republican Congressman Kelly Armstrong, who sits on the committee that oversees the USPS, says those claims add up to merely political theater in an election year.
The post office has had a funding problem since well over a decade. Since 2006, we've had a 30% decrease in mail, but the post office is fully funded until August of 2021. There is not a crisis of funding at this point in time, any more than it's already been. But we have to remember it lost $9 billion in 2019.
Congressman Armstrong's opponent in the U.S. House race, Dem-NPL candidate Zach Racknerud, says the Postal Service is under attack during this critical moment when it's needed most.
USPS and its services are going to be absolutely vital this election season for the disproportionate amount of folks who are going to choose to vote by mail this year because of the coronavirus pandemic. So it's absolutely essential that we maintain the services that the USPS has provided.
Midsummer, Postmaster General Louis DeJoy eliminated overtime for hundreds of thousands of post office employees and mandated that mail is kept until the next day if distribution centers are running behind.
Decommissioning mail sorting machines, switching around the routines of whether to sort first and then deliver later, or to deliver later and sort first. All these sorts of things are completely upending the process that USPS workers have known for years.
Court documents obtained by CNN show that under DeJoy, the Postal Service has removed 711 mail sorting machines from postal facilities, the highest level in at least 4 years.
One of the differences between Republicans and Democrats, and I like the Republican side, when we have something that's really broken, we bring somebody in from the private sector who has understood efficiencies, understood how to do these things. It seems that my opponent would say the only people qualified to run the post office is somebody who's worked for government their whole life, and that's just not the case.
Congressman Armstrong will tell you that we need somebody to run the USPS like a business. Well, I've got news for him. If the USPS is run like a business, then people out in the rural nature of our state aren't going to get mail delivery 6 days a week, and they're not going to get their medications on time.
The last day to have your ballot postmarked in North Dakota is November 2nd. Secretary of State Al Jaeger recommends you send your ballot by mail as soon as possible. For a full list of dates as well as other information about the elections, you can visit our website, kxnet.com.
Now, Josh, will mail-in voting be an issue in North Dakota come Election Day?
In short, Maddie, no. The primary election was almost entirely all mail-in, and Secretary Al Jaeger says it was a success. It was even the highest turnout that we had in a June election. Jaeger says he's not worried about fraud in our state anyway, and there are more than 30 counties that have been strictly mail-in for years.
Okay, well, that is all the time we have for this episode of Inside North Dakota Politics. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next Sunday.
My life is a